all you've done is your work and you get
Mm.
that technical interview question, that leak code, you're cooked. Like you're cooked. All their learning is theory. I know students who are in computer science programs that never write code. Their professors say you can do that on your own. Like do that on your own time. I genuinely think that like this is not sustainable. The direction that it's heading. College is way too expensive. Something whatever. Like this bubble will burst somehow. I don't know how that. Like I said before, if I was in college right now, all I'd be doing is building something every week. Take an hour, go on ChatGPT or Replit or Cursor and just build something.
Welcome to the Tech Unlock podcast, where we demystify emerging technologies and give you the keys to unlock your successful tech career. I'm your host, Grace McJones. Let's unlock the future together. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Tech Unlock podcast. I have been looking through how AI has impacted a lot of industries within tech. Obviously, we've seen it through layoffs and other aspects. I'm excited for my guest on the show today because we're going to talk about the future of education. Welcome to the show, Jehron Petty. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Let's kind of like jump into your story and how you built ColorStack. For those that don't know about ColorStack, give us a brief overview of what it is and what inspired you to build it.
Yeah, for sure. So ColorStack is a peer-to-peer support network for Black and Latino computer science students. So we have over 13,000 members representing over 1,000 colleges in the US and Canada. And what we like to explain as our strategy is we're kind of we're a platform, right, for students to be able to help each other. So we are not educators. We are not, running some fellowship and giving them some curriculum. We're actually just making it very easy for any Black or Latino computer science student in the country to be in community with other students that share that identity and simply helping each other like any student would on campus, right? But we know because these students are underrepresented in their departments, in the industry, they don't have the same community that some other majors on campus do. So while they might have friends on campus, they don't really have a support group within the major. And we know school, college, getting jobs, doing all those things is a very collaborative effort. You can't do it on your own. So we try to just make it easy for them to connect with each other. And the reason that I started the org and where that came from was basically solving the problem at Cornell. So I went to Cornell, studied computer science, noticed this same problem just right around me, right in front of me. And so over the course of my 4 years, I progressively tried to solve the problem at a bigger scale. First, it was my friends. Then it was, any Black or Latino computer science student in the department through a student-led club. And then it became a more national effort to bring this to more campuses and more students across the country in 2020. So yeah, happy to go deeper wherever the conversation goes, but that's the high level.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like you're giving immigrant energy. So are your parents immigrants?
Yes.
Are you an immigrant? Because I feel like
yeah.
I can see myself in that story in terms of like I'm Nigerian American immigrant, and so education is very important to my parents. Education is very important to me. It was kind of like this is how you kind of not get out the hood because we didn't grow up in the hood. We grew up in Virginia, so but it was more like this opens up a lot of opportunities, right? And then being empathetic enough to be like, okay, how can I not just only help myself be successful, but how can I help other people within my community or my college be successful? So talk about that your upbringing influenced you kind of embracing this calling, for lack of a better term, or was it kind of like, oh, this is a problem that I see and I feel like I can fix it?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that kind of play into how, like, why and how this started for me. One is definitely just, the upbringing and the influence that my parents had, right? So like you said, parents, immigrants, actually technically my dad and I were born in St. Thomas. So we're US citizens because it's a US Virgin Island, but similar, coming from the Caribbean, to the States and having that kind of chip on your shoulder to try and make the most of the opportunity. So that energy was always around me. And both my parents, my mom was, she was like a valedictorian in high school, got her undergrad degree, then got her MBA, things like that. My dad, he just got his third degree. He just got his doctorate like literally 2 years ago, right? So
that's awesome.
like both of them, exactly what you're saying. Education is super important and nothing can take that away from you. That was kind of a big theme growing up, is like everything else can come and go, but what you know and that credentialing of education, no one can ever take away from you. So that was a big piece. And I think just being, I don't know if this is more, nature or nurture, but like I growing up was just someone who always wanted to be helpful, right? There was definitely a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit that I always saw too, but the one thing that kind of in any space that I was in, I just wanted to help, right? And so usually that looked like teaching someone or helping them, overcome some obstacle. And so I think that entrepreneurial but also helpful spirit, but also this value for education turns into like eventually, the opportunity with something like ColorStack makes a lot of sense for me. And if you know the term founder market fit, like this is an area where like clearly there's some founder market fit for me where I have this background, I have this experience, and I'm entrepreneurial. This is like a very aligned space for me to play in versus like trying to work on some other problem space.
That's awesome. And so, as someone who is a founder in this space, a lot has changed, since
Mm-hmm.
2020, where everyone's like, yes, diversity and inclusion and like
Right,
spending
right.
money and posting your black square boxes or whatever on Instagram.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so, how has it been as a founder in this space where it seems like we're regressing in progress, right? When it
Mm-hmm.
comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Uh, have you seen support change in people's stands? Because obviously you mentioned that you collaborate or have support from a lot of companies.
Yeah.
How's that journey been so far comparing to, 2020 to now?
Yeah, I mean, I joke with folks that like we were started, we were founded just a little bit too late to get
Mm,
the advantage of a lot of the funding that was happening in 2020. Because typically, how nonprofit funding works is they're very risk averse. So it's not like startup, like in VC investing, where the earlier is the better. Like they're more incentivized to invest in earlier stage companies because there's a higher ROI potential. Nonprofits or philanthropy and and those kind of traditional foundations, they are more incentivized to give money to an organization that's been doing things for a while that they can check the box and feel safe,
mm,
right? Because the worst thing you want to do is, whether it's your own money or somebody else's money or you're a corporate foundation, is give money to some nonprofit that I guess in their eyes fails, or maybe didn't use the money in a way that you thought they would. Like philanthropy is a whole different market. So we were founded, um, as an unfortunate coincidence, we were actually founded the day that George Floyd was murdered. Like that was
wow.
actually the day that I launched ColorStack. Um, and so shortly after, obviously, everything comes out. People are trying to help. People are trying to do things, and I think we got one grant for $50,000 that I think was um, a part of that energy because it never got renewed. I never talked to that team again. It seemed like they just wanted to do a thing. Um, but um, yeah, I mean that was pretty much it. Everything else was kind of based on relationships that I already had or introductions to certain people that were already aligned, not people who were kind of just in it for that year. I mean, it would have been nice, maybe, I guess, like it could have been nice to get a little bit more of that capital from year one, but we definitely had to like earn our way through just because we weren't established, right? Like a lot of these foundations only give money to orgs that have like years of 990s and public filings and all that thing. We didn't even have our 501c3, until 2021. So
Wow, wow. So I didn't know
yeah.
all that. So thank you so much for
Hmm.
sharing. And
Yeah.
so with that being said, now that a lot of people are, well, I would say a lot of companies are kind of like in and out in terms of like their support, has anything changed with the support that you gotten from other companies? Are they changing their stance, or is it more like, oh no, we're thriving because things are changing? Because I do feel
Yeah.
like CallStack has made a huge impact
Yeah.
in terms of within the tech industry, and it's being noticeable. How has that shift been like for you?
Yeah. I mean, it's it's definitely it's so weird because there's so many things happening, right? You're having like market forces with the layoffs, right? You're like
Mm,
having this thing, and then AI is disrupting, and then you have the anti DEI rhetoric, and then there's so many things happening at once. I don't know why any of these things are happening that affect us. It's hard to pinpoint like what the root is. But I think it's all playing a part. I think, for example, there's there was peak layoffs in 2022 or whatever year, a lot of them started. We definitely saw a hit. Like that was our peak year in terms of corporate sponsorship revenue. And the next year after that, our corporate sponsorship revenue was down maybe 40%. Right. So there were companies that gave us a lot of money the previous year that didn't give us anything the year after. Right. So there was a lot of excess capital in the market for sure. So that was like something that definitely played a role. Then you had all these layoffs where they were laying off in recruiting teams, ending shutting down internship programs, right? So then that affects us because all we're doing is partnering with the companies on internship programs because we have students, right? Like so that affected us. It's very hard, and I'm sure it's gonna be hard unless somebody's super blatant about more of an anti-DEI thing that I would ever be able to prove that one of the reasons we didn't get any funding or partnership for the company was because of that. But I'm sure that at some level that companies are talking about their partnerships with, I guess, DEI-based orgs. They're talking about them in different ways. They may not be saying, oh, we can't do this because of blah, but they might be not renewing because they're like, oh, what's the ROI? Or like saying different types of words that really come back, that start from this same root. But yeah, I'm sure that plays a role too. It's just hard to pinpoint.
Yeah, it's been several things.
Yeah.
As someone on the inside of a tech company, it's just one of those things where, like, okay, yeah, we're still committed, but it's like the actions are different, right? It's like keep
Yeah.
the same energy.
Yeah.
And then
Exactly.
also obviously the companies are, have to talk to their investors of like, okay, this is what we're doing. Are we making money? And so there's just different things at play. But I think through it all, I've seen ColorStack still be able to withstand all that. I wouldn't say
Yeah.
overcome. And have an impact. I was part of the mentorship program and mentored over like 8 students because I didn't really block up
Oh,
my
I
calendar.
heard. Yes, I heard.
And
One of our
so
program managers mentioned that. Yeah,
yeah.
nice.
And so it was interesting, kind of talking one on one with them, and a lot of
Nice.
people were just kind of like, okay, is this still worth it? Right? Like,
Mm,
I'm studying computer science. I love
yeah.
ColorStack. They went to the summit, which I wish I
Yeah.
went to, but I'm like, oh, this is great. Giving them advice, maybe next
Yep.
year.
Yep.
Um, and I had to be real. I was like, when I studied computer science and when I graduated, there was just so
Yeah.
much opportunity. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It was like tech was
Yeah.
the it girl and everybody wanted
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I
Exactly.
mean? And
Yeah.
so I was like, you definitely and it was one of those things where I feel like all of us, the tech industry and everyone with,
Yeah.
coding boot camps are like, oh, everyone learn how to code, learn how to code. And then
Mhm.
it's like,
Mhm.
now we all know how to code. Now what?
Yeah.
For the
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
And it was like, how do
Yeah.
you make yourself stand out? That's a question that I
Right.
got a lot. Like, how do you make yourself stand out? Because if I can code, she can code, they can code, ChatGPT can code. What
Mhm.
what am I doing? What is my value?
Right.
And so, what is kind of like your advice? Because I know obviously you talk to the students a lot in terms of like standing out in this very competitive tech
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think generally computer science students overreact to a lot of things. I think there's a lot of, I think it was so interesting because like and that was part of the reason why I picked going to Cornell because they have like a very diverse set of majors and all these different things. And so you'd be in community, yes, with your engineering friends, but also students from all other types of majors. And like, I'm just like, at a certain point, I realized that like, we're actually kind of crazy. Like this small niche community is so stressed about internships, so stressed about all these things. And everybody else is like, if I get an internship, like that's great. It's like all about the full-time job. And even then it's not like this ideal, like which company is the perfect. It's just like, we're just going to figure things out as we go. And it's not as competitive or not as structured in terms of do this and that, than that as software and computer science has been. So I think for the most part, like my take is that if the tools that we have right now can make marketing graphics and can write and can do all these other things, can do even way better data analysis, like that's even a bigger thing. Like the data analyst, like that's a role that I think could easily go away faster than software engineer can. I mean, I think there's a lot of tooling that can be done, but even when you look at some of the AI-based coding editors like Cursor and GitHub Copilot and things like that, there are people who, if you don't know how to code at all, you don't even know how to prompt. Like you don't even really know how to get started, prompt things, or fix things when the prompt, because prompts aren't perfect, right? Prompt engineering isn't perfect. So it's even about like, I was using Replit to build this like tool on the side, and like, because I know how to code, like I was like fixing it and telling like, hey, you actually did that wrong, like fix this line, or actually just editing the code myself. And so if you think that now you shouldn't get a CS major, it was worthless, I think that that's an extreme case and an overreaction, especially in the short term, because of the fact that like that knowledge and expertise is still required to even use the tools that will be able to write code and things like that. And I think students, like, they haven't been in the industry, so they don't really know what it takes to build anything, right? So like, and especially within a company. And so there's a lot of cross-functional collaboration that it takes to put a product out in the world and build a business around it. And we haven't seen, even though there's a lot of agentic AI things happening right now, but like that cross-functional collaboration and synergy between teams and different features, like there's still some level of coordination that has to happen and human in the loop that's required to get things done. So my short answer is, who cares? Like, let's just keep doing what you're doing, and you'll pivot and make the change if you need to, like we did as an economy before with other technological advances. But my longer answer is that, from what I've seen so far in terms of the frontier coding tools and AI copilots and things like that, you're not, like my mom or my wife who's a nurse they're not going to be able to use them. So there is still value and expertise, in computer science or any other field.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I definitely agree on some parts of that. I think two things. Number one, I think the students to some degree are overreacting because this is maybe their first time seeing a downturn in tech. This is not the first time that's happening, right? But so it's like, if you zoom out, and this is something I was talking to my mentor about, is like, they've been in tech for like 30 something years. They're like, yeah, we've seen this before. Then it's like, what goes up must come down, what goes down will go up eventually. But maybe it's in a different, case, a different scenario. I would say some of the students I talked to were international students, right? Students who had something riding on, okay, I need to get a job, post grad. And so having an internship does help with that process. And so there's this extra burden of like, I need to get something. And it's like, yes, okay. But if you're a sophomore, hopefully you have more time. But there's also external pressures if you're on visa, where it's like, okay, you need to get a job in the degree that you're studying. And so I could empathize or understand with that. So I understand that part. And then the second part, in terms of, I think someone tweeted this recently about English being the new programming language where anyone can learn. I don't think you'd necessarily have to be a computer scientist or someone who knows how to code to know prompting. I think it requires critical thinking. I've seen so many, YouTube videos, people who are just normal everyday people using ChatGPT way more than I probably do, because it's like, it's interesting. It's like, okay, there's no barrier now because it's English. It's a language that we all understand. And so it's by practicing prompting and saying, okay, maybe I can learn how to code because I know how to prompt better now. Like, create a lesson plan for me, teach me like I'm 5 years old, right? And then it teaches you Python, And so I do feel like the critical thinking level, I would just say, yes, definitely study computer science, because I think there's just a huge opportunity in the market than other fields. It might require you to know smaller or more specific, what's it called? Like subject matter expert in certain things. So just like coding, I think it's not by itself maybe more secure. But if you know how to code and you're a good communicator, good storyteller, then yes, I think there's more space for you in the industry. But those are two things that kind of like
Yeah.
stuck out. I'm like, yeah, like definitely for those who are international students, it's definitely much
Yeah.
more a lot on you because you definitely want to make sure that you secure a job and you're successful because you're probably helping your family members and whatever.
Yeah.
But for those who are like, okay, I'm curious about it, you can use this AI tools because they're built for the everyday person and not for the person
Yeah.
who's super technical.
Yeah. What I'll say on the first point is I definitely don't have that experience, so I know
Mm.
I get that that's a whole different level of pressure, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
from a perspective of just job placement and security, um, there are for sure less, especially new graduate roles,
Mm-hmm.
purely new graduate. All these companies, what they're doing right now, I talk to them a lot for our partnerships, and they're all just converting their interns. So if you don't get an internship, good luck getting a new grad job because they're converting all their interns and not even opening a new grad role. So I definitely get. I don't think those folks are overreacting. I'll tell you that. Like that is a
Mm-hmm.
very real concern and something that is completely different for somebody who was born here and has a different kind of risk profile. I do. Have you ever seen the video that's like, um, have you ever done the activity that's like teach me how to or tell me how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Like you ever seen that?
I don't think so. What is it about?
Okay. So this is it's something that I learned in it's actually part of what I learned in high school when I was just learning how to code. In my senior year, my computer science instructor did this thing. And it's basically like the activity is they will have bread, all the materials to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? And then you as the person that's prompting, in this case them, um they'll tell you, okay, tell me how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? And so there's this funny video online of like this guy doing it with his like kids, his like I think they were like less than 10. Um and basically what happens is like you think that and this is like a good explanation like the average case and the average person where you think that it's simple to like
Mm.
make instructions on how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich until you realize that even when it's prompting or just like regular coding, the amount of detail that you need is way more than you thought, right? And so he does this like 5 minute video or whatever of like seeing his kids get so frustrated because he's like, oh, they'll say take the butter and spread it over the bread. I mean, take the peanut butter and spread it over the bread. And so he'll like take the jar of peanut butter and just like roll it on the bread, for example, right?
Mm.
And so I think that like what AI is able to do right now, and this is from tools that I've used like Replit, etc., where you can build production level software. If you can build something that works without the level of expertise on like what software architecture really is. Like you can build something that works. When you have levels of complexity and UX that you've just never worked with thinking through, right? Like multiple different pages and authentication and like all these different things. I think that's what will separate like someone building a clone of something else or just something that's like single function. Like there will be a lot of single function. Like I saw somebody post that they built a tip calculator for a restaurant and the restaurant like bought it in like
Mm.
the next day and like they now use the QR code. It's like a very simple, thing, but to build like a square, right? Build an entirely new point of sale system, or toast or whatever you want to think of as a collaboration. Like that just requires a level of soft system design and software architecture that I think one would need to understand to fully build, a software product. So I think we're definitely on the way to maybe um, that being as easy as prompting from the average person. But I would break it down into those two things. I think simple kind of use case tools, single function kind of platforms, I think are very easy to be done in literally an hour by average people. But even for myself, when I was prompting and building a multi-page, multi-step authentication, all these different things, tool, it did require a little bit more back and forth. And I don't think today, without understanding how software is built, that you can do something that's like more complex like that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate having those different differentiators of like either building something that's particularly focused on a simple task or factor, or something that is multi-layered,
Yeah.
deep architecture, which is I think the beauty of also AI, where it's like you have more options. You don't have to.
Yeah.
Some people are not interested in the deep architectural concept of what you're building. It's like, I just need a solution for this problem right
Right.
now.
Exactly.
Who is the
Exactly.
fastest person to build it? And I think that's another advice I tell people. I'm like, to showcase your abilities, start off building that. Like, build a
Yeah.
simple form, build the
Right.
simple
To-do list.
kind of, yeah, to show, a prototype of whatnot, so that people can have a taste of like your abilities. And
Yeah.
then when you're brought into maybe the company or the business, then you can be like, okay, this is how you can, layer it on and whatnot. And so with this discussion, I'm curious though, if you were to start your computer science career in college right
Mm-hmm.
now, in this state of everything that's happening, what would you do differently?
I actually just thought about this the other day, because that's a good question. Because I was like, I actually wish I started my I wish I was a freshman in college right now. Like
Really
that, yeah, like that would be
interesting.
an amazing opportunity right now, because I think, and maybe this is actually something that's tied back to your earlier questions about like job security, what you should study, whatever. I think that software. So if you think about a lot of the other trades and things of the world, like
Mm-hmm.
there isn't like a big company that does plumbing or landscaping or pick your trade, right? Like those are all things that are hyper local. Like you have maybe 4 people in a 5 mile radius that do those things, right? And I think that software is going to become hyper local. And I think because of this trend of being able to build things so quickly, so easily, at a level of what 10 engineers used to have to build, or some big company with more infrastructure had to build, I feel like, what if every city in America had a local point of sale system, right? Where, because like you have more, you take more pride in that. Like we, like as humans, we're like, we'd rather get the referral to someone who did their bathroom, redid their bathroom, than looking online and finding some either big company or someone else. So I think that what I'd be excited about right now is to build things. Like, just, I would have so much more opportunity as a student right now to build things for real users and put things out there in the world and try to build a business around it. And it will likely not be $1 billion company. But what if I can build a micro software platform that solves enough people's problems in whatever mile radius, or whatever super niche market, that makes $120,000? Even if it makes 50K,
Mm-hmm.
like it's through a business entity, then you get tax benefits and all these different things. Like, I think there's an opportunity to do things like that. And I think being a student in that space where you have a high density of like talent, right? Everybody else is like learning and growing, and like everybody else is on the same schedule as you, and you're all like living on the same campus. Like, to be in that space again right now, I think would be super exciting. I feel like I'd probably do have a worse GPA when I graduate, if I started now, than when I went to school, because I would just be building, like every week I would try to build something new.
Wow.
Like there's just such an opportunity right now to build, and I think, yeah, I'm jealous. I'm jealous.
That's a very interesting take, because I don't know if a lot of people
Yeah,
feel the same way of like they have so much opportunity right now to build, but it's about perspective,
yeah,
right? I think
yeah,
since you've been in the industry for a while, you have a different perspective of someone just going through it the first time, like you mentioned.
yeah.
I'm curious about GPA though. What was your GPA in college?
Uh, I graduated, whatever, I forgot which one it is, magna cum laude or something like that. So it's like
Okay, okay,
like
no,
3.6 or
yeah,
something.
yeah. So I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know if a lot of recruiters are still looking at GPAs. I do feel like it is important to some degree, but I think it's more
yeah.
important about what you build.
Exactly.
And so I agree with what you said about folks finding, something not even small but specific. And I talked about this
Yeah,
recently on the podcast about being a generalist versus I'm blanking on the word. A
Mm-hmm.
generalist versus someone who's focused on someone that's very specific.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think right now there is a market of people who are looking to solve very specific problems, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, it's like, yeah, it's cool to be a software engineer, a product manager, but what are you focused on? You could be a
Yeah.
program manager focused on climate change, right? Or you could be
Yeah.
a software engineer focused on, I don't know, data analysis for space travel. I don't know. I think the
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
specific and niche your
Exactly.
interest is, the
Yeah.
more opportunities that you can find because you're not just like everybody else.
Right.
And so I think having students or those who wanted to break into tech think from that perspective of like, okay, yes, I might have the general knowledge, but how can I go deep in a particular expertise that is in demand right now? And so I
Yeah.
think that's something that's practical people can do is to build something
Yeah.
while
100%.
they're job searching. And I think that's something that a lot of students maybe don't think about because everything is handed to them in the educational system, where it's like, okay, here's
Yeah.
your assignment, here's your thing, and so it's like, how do you think outside the box? Which can be hard, but I think it's worth diving into or figuring it out.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. And so moving into more about education,
Mm-hmm.
we've seen also a decline in enrollment. I was reading some articles recently about, enrollment in Harvard and other colleges where people are just
Mm-hmm.
like not going to college. So what
Yeah.
are your thoughts about just the future of traditional education at large? Do you feel like it is
Yeah.
still a necessary path, especially for people of color, Black and Latinx folks? Or do you think there's just much more opportunities that maybe college is not necessarily the most prominent part to success or to tech industry?
Yeah. I think it really depends on what you want to do. I think that college, well, I mean, there's a few different thoughts on this. One is that there is no way that college is going to look the same way it does today um, in the next 10, 20. I mean, especially when my kids are ready for that or that age. Like,
Hmm.
there's no way that this trend line continues to go in the direction in terms of cost versus the benefit, and that still makes sense as a viable path. Like, there's no way that this continues to work like this. I think we're also noticing a shift in the value of certain brands where Ivy League schools don't hold the same weight that they used to, and
Hmm.
people are actually looking more at like state schools and things like that um, for talent and realizing that talent truly is everywhere. And what's happening too is that because of the cost of those prestigious institutions, like a lot of top talent that just can't afford to do that are going more local or wherever else. So there's kind of that trend as well. Um, and so I think so to your question, but it's like, is it worth it? What should you do? I think it really does depend on what you're trying to accomplish in the world. I think for Black Latino people, like there's definitely more to gain from having a degree in America as having our identity than not.
Hmm.
But I do think that we have a shortage of people in the trades, like I mentioned earlier, plumbing, elevator operators, right? Like different these super niche things that a lot of our uncles and aunts do that we don't want to touch for some reason, right? Like I think there's a lot of opportunity to just learn a trade and you'll have it for life. Um, but I do think that we are definitely in the early innings of like a shift in what it means to one learn and how much that should cost to learn something. Two, develop skills, which is slightly different, right? Employable skills. I think that's another thing that's happening in higher ed is that they're not actually teaching employable skills. You have to go to school to get the degree, but then you have to do the work outside of the classroom to learn employable skills, especially in computer science, where a lot of professors are teaching theory, and then you go out and you learn how to actually build an app. Um, so yeah, a bit of a roundabout answer, but I genuinely think that like this is not sustainable. The direction that it's heading, college is way too expensive. Something whatever like this bubble will burst somehow. I don't know how that will play out, but I do think that there is a reason why enrollment's going down. There is a reason why, um, even just the shift in where people are going to school is happening. Um, Yeah, and there's a reason why we have shortages in other types of roles that I don't think these schools are preparing people for.
Yeah, I love that you brought about employable skills versus
Hmm.
just learning because I
Yeah,
definitely saw that shift of like, okay, I know this in the classroom in theory, but what does it mean to
hmm,
implement? So,
yeah,
can you share more about what that means? What are employable skills, and what does it mean to really upskill in something that employers want?
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna speak mainly from the perspective of computer science. 'Cause I don't know what how this manifests in other majors and things, but like especially if your computer science department isn't as strong and isn't as connected to industry, you're gonna learn a lot of like you're gonna learn basic programming, yes, but you're not gonna learn how to build software. And
Mm,
if that is the number one role that you will be eligible for after getting a computer science degree, then there's a gap, right, to be filled,
yeah.
right? The fact that people do you do your class like for my other peers and friends in college that were in certain majors, it's like all you got to do is your classwork, and if you do well, and then you do the homework and you do the projects, like you're good. Like you learn the things that you'll need for certain jobs, like finance, maybe things like that. But when it's computer science, it's like if all you've done is your work and you get
Mm.
that technical interview question, that leak code, you're cooked. Like you're cooked. Like what are you gonna do?
Sure, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what are
Yeah,
you
yeah.
gonna do? And then that's at a school like Cornell, right? If you talk to people at schools that are smaller, more rural, all they're learning is theory. I know students who are in computer science programs that never write code
What?
because their professors say you can do that on your own. Like do that on your own time. Like go figure that out. And the assumption in that is a very privileged assumption that
Mm.
everybody has extra time to go do that. When you have people who are commuting to school, you have people who are working two jobs, you to support them through school. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just not like that. That's then when you're trying to actually get a job, you really have no skill. You don't know how to build software, right?
Yeah. Wow, that's news to me. Wow,
Yeah,
going to a school that doesn't, and that's I think that's privilege also to assume that yeah, like you
right,
can do this on your free time. Like what free
right,
time? Like what if you have two
exactly. Not
jobs trying to
everybody
pay
has
your
that.
tuition? Like like
Exactly.
most people we know who are from marginalized communities, you're
Hmm.
usually paying or responsible for your family or whatnot. So that's
Yeah,
news to me, and that's I think one of the factors that will impact people going to colleges and like if I can learn this on my own, why do I need to pay a professor to tell
right,
me go learn this on your own, right? And
right,
math isn't
right.
mathing
Exactly.
at all,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so I think that with everything you've said, I do feel like students really have to have an introspective like, okay, what am I truly learning, right? And if I'm not learning what
Right.
I'm supposed to learn, how do I apply some type of pressure to be like, okay, am I going to learn on my own? Do I find communities on campus that can help me grow communities also like ColorStack, where it's like, oh no, like we can learn and study together and build together, which I think is necessary. And so,
Wow.
with that being said, looking at the future of education, what are two or three things that you hope to see in the future, right? What are some like positive changes that you're hoping um, we we as a community or even the computer science community kind of align to when we look forward?
Yeah, I mean, I just hope that the types of requirement, like the things that we view as requirements, like degrees have to be 4 years. If you don't get a 4 year degree, you're not eligible. The cost to getting like those types of like all those types of different like this has to be this way, like those types of
Mm,
rules that we've just set over time. Like I would love to a lot of them to get challenged in some formal way in the market over the next few years. I would love to see more of a a trade like pipeline to employment. So instead of going to college to learn all these random things and then you have this major that you're doing and then you got to do it for whatever amount of time to then hopefully potentially get a job, like how can we have like more direct pathways? Like if you want to get into HR, like
mm,
you can do this. If you want to get into data science, that's the thing. If you want to get into psychology, like, what I'm saying, like there's more clear like
yep.
do this if you're interested in this type of employment, and then aligning the incentives to those institutions, whether they're colleges or not, such that they do not get government funding or whatever the case may be if they don't have good job placement. Like, you're charging these people a bunch of money up front, you're giving these young people hundreds of $1,000s of loans that they don't really understand at the time what that'll do to their finances after, and not even really having confidence that you can get them a job. Like, you're not incentivized to get them a job, right? You're more incentivized to get someone to pick your school because they will commit to paying you for those 4 years, and then you're just kind of like, whatever happens after. So definitely that, and then just more just like, I think the maintenance of community in education, I think we should never lose that, right? Like, I think there's a shift to more like remote stuff, do it by yourself, get this AI kind of custom thing. But I think we can do all that and still have it be a communal experience somehow. And so if we continue to, I hope we continue to prioritize the idea of learning things in collaboration with others, with peers that are of the same either age or skill level.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think when it comes to networking, right, I see a lot of people trying to network up a lot, which is not bad, because if you're a
Right.
student or someone who's trying to break in, you feel like that's the most impactful way to do it. But I think cross networking, in terms of like figuring out if someone who just maybe graduated or have an internship, talking with them, then getting a more current feel of what the market
Yeah.
looks like is definitely necessary. And so when it comes to uh, networking in terms of getting a job, what are some of your tips for those who are like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm in a good college, I'm great at building stuff, but I just feel like I'm lacking in terms of how to really connect with people in the industry. What would you
Yeah.
recommend for them to do?
Well, first I would say this is definitely something that's also new to me, like this type of market, right? I was not either in the industry or a student during a market that has been as tough as this one. So it's not really speaking from a place of experience. It's more speaking from what I know to be true and what I've seen and heard. So one is just to like give yourself the grace that like this is a tough market for a lot of people, even people with 30, 20 years of experience. So it's just like, don't take a lot of what's happening to you as personal to you. This is really happening to us as a society right now as we go through all these different macro level um, events. And then more tactically, like I said before, if I was in college right now, all I'd be doing is building something every weekend. Take an hour, go on ChatGPT or Replit or Cursor, and just build something that can solve a problem for you or somebody that's around you. And just if you do that for even just a year, like, you'll have something that either works and you can either monetize them immediately, or you're building something that could be a company one day or whatever. But in the worst case, you've just learned so much by doing, and you have this portfolio of things. And I would say also, don't do it in private. Like, do all of that and share that with the world. So, and launch something every week. Say, I've just built this thing. Can anybody use it? Let me know if it's helpful. Like, do that with the world, because then as you build that brand of someone who's capable of doing that, that'll attract opportunities for employment and things like that, or just opportunity to connect with the right people where you guys might want to come together and build something. So yeah, I think it's first, give yourself grace, and two, just like take matters into your own hands and just start building things and putting out there in the world.
Yeah, that's great advice. I believe show don't tell, like show what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
And in that case, people can and invite a conversation, whether you post on LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh yeah, what is that? You never know where you can get discovered.
Exactly.
And so I love that practical advice. So when it comes to ColorStack, what are some exciting or upcoming things that you were
Mm-hmm.
looking forward to?
Well, this episode will probably be when early next year, right?
Hmm.
So we have what we'll have coming up then. We're going to be celebrating our 5th year anniversary in New York
Awesome.
in May. So
Okay.
that's going to be in-person event. It's going to be fun. All the things. And then in August, we'll be doing our second annual summit, which you're familiar with, right? The summit that we hosted this year, we're going to be doing our second version of that. It's going to be hopefully bigger, better, all the things. So those are two things that I'm really looking forward to. Really just excited to continue to get people together in person and really just see the impact of ColorStack and build those connections, increase social capital. But those are two things I'm really excited about.
That's great. And for those who wanted to get involved from a support or mentorship perspective, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, there's a volunteer form online such that on our website, such that whenever we have volunteer opportunities, we would pull that list and see if you're a fit. So you can always do that. And the second thing I think is the easiest thing is just sign up for the Friends of ColorStack newsletter. You can also sign up for that on our website, bottom. And it just keeps you in touch. We send a monthly newsletter and say, hey, here's all the things that happened to our students this past month. Here are some ways you can help us. And we also will shout you out if you help us do something that we ask on the Friends of ColorStack newsletter. We'll also shout you out in the next one out of appreciation. So
that's awesome. Now we're going to move into a lightning round where it's literally answering the question with 5 words or less. So we're going to get started. Okay. So number 1, what is one app that you can't do without or you can't live without?
YouTube.
Okay. Learning, I would say maybe.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. What's one of your favorite books you've read, so far?
Get Together. It's a book about building community.
Oh, nice. What is the number one favorite programming language?
It was definitely Java in
Really?
college. I'm not coding as much these days, but Java was my favorite language.
If you could give advice to your younger self, what would that be?
Buy some Bitcoin and never sell it.
I did not see that coming, but yes, I agree. Now that it's almost 90,000?
Yep.
Right there with you, crying tears right now, crying tears.
No, seriously.
Yeah. If you could wave a magic wand to solve one problem with technology, what would it be?
This is a very general problem, but I'd say like efficient resource allocation at all levels. So government spending, private sector, personal, like if there was a way to just get everybody to more efficiently spend the money that we all have.
Gotcha.
In a better place.
Team iPhone or Android?
iPhone, of course.
iPhone, of course.
Yeah.
Also, well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. This has definitely been very insightful and very informative. Yeah. I'm so glad to see the work that you're doing. I wish I had ColorStack when I was in college because I feel like it would have made a huge difference to my journey and I wouldn't have to suffer by myself, but I think that what you're building is definitely very impactful from a generational perspective. So thank you for all the work that you and your team does. And I look forward to continue to volunteer and collaborate with everything that you all are doing.
Thanks so much, Grace. Thanks for having me.